I get this noise for a while, because they that yeah.
When I have the horrible thing of like, in my last role, lots and lots and lots of people that would buy things without like needing a big or anything. Prices are falling away. Yeah, I just always just think there's something. It's like eating, 75 hours. Okay, impressed with anybody who remembers that, seen it? Well, every single one of my kids' friends' parents are in our phone as, like Leona's a young kid, and then it has her name, but she was first. I said, yeah. Yeah. Or birthday, and I was like, oh, yeah, she's there. One's actually. They were up there, the house. They were hiring people to hire with her and she got sick of it. Yeah. Fix it. So she's like, I don't know. She's like 19. Like, don't. And she just learning up. Yeah. They did quite a bit of that. They just. I wouldn't. Doctors. I'm not gonna have access to any of this today, in my mental state. Yeah, so they only have Dr. Guy and. So by the way, Dr. Clark.
Okay, so who brought the whole punch today?
I do have one.
No, I was just kind of like, somebody always has it.
Somebody.
Oh, there you go. You have one.
I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah.
To reinforce the concept of the standing ready to partner with us, Crystal sent me a text morning. Did you have Joey turn on the air conditioning tonight? Speaking of Crystal, your home comfort's a thing, and it's been hot lately, so.
Thank you, because, yeah, it was 99 degrees at my house.
No, good call, good call.
Had an idea delivery and brought him like a 6-pack of Gatorade. I was like, I'm so sorry you had to be on this line. I was like, no, thank you.
Well, cool. We've got, for our agenda to finalize, our agenda, we had tentatively agreed verbal to a couple of these articles, and I brought them back, and I have clean copies of these also, for us to be able to look at and sign. But wanted to just take the opportunity to go through them and make sure that we align. Then we had the article responses for 13, 20, 28, and 32 that had a place or two in them that we talked about wordsmithing some language. And so in those, we kind of took a cut at some of those also to be able to look at. The article that you will not see as a whole in this packet is 19. And it is about, when we get through all these others, we're going to present really a couple of options, but it's really about consideration that includes both compensation and insurance. So without taking 19 as kind of its own, we've kind of got a couple of options, if you will, to be able to take a look at and say, here's the wiggle room within it, and then we can actually put the language into the article to be able to make it fit. So, any other things we need to add? Cool. So if we look at Article 12, and Teen, you got to help me remember where I put the information. This is in Article 12, the language that was presented and in agreement for all of us when we last got together last week. The one place that we had left back in there was in C, school workday number 2. The last sentence of, apart from providing required preparation period, lunch and break, time may be utilized for student contact, school or district meetings, communication with parents, students, and or class preparation. I don't recall, it could have been, hearing that we want that taken out. And, so we put it back in there to be able to say, let's make sure that we have agreement on that. So that's Article 12. Article 17 was the next one we looked at. As we all had suggested, we took out the short-term unpaid leaves. And so we've just got A, B, and the C that was there is Xed out, and the new C is the MOU for the donated leave. Just sticking in its place. And so, all that did, in the same thing we agreed to, was remove the short-term unpaid leaves. And then in Article 31, there was agreement about the language that we had, same thing you put in there. The only thing that I adjusted within that, if you'll see in the green, was the language said school administration will take necessary steps, including documentation of the dangerous situation, a threat assessment protocol if needed. I just put the word "and," because we're talking about including documentation of the dangerous situation and a threat assessment protocol if it's needed. So that was the only adjustment made for those 3 that we had verbally agreed to last time.
Can I just clarify?
Yep.
On 31, like including documentation of the dangerous situation and a threat assessment protocol if needed. Like no matter what, the situation would be documented, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, the threat assessment protocol piece of it was, we may not always need
Right.
threat assessment, but the documentation, yeah. And we agreed because we had put in, as per safety protocol, you said as part of the course of normal operations, we're good. So that was those 3.
And C in 12, that extra green sentence that you're putting in there, it's just for clarification that, I guess it's not in our original language, it is in your new language.
It was in our original.
Yeah, but we rejected it.
Okay, and that was the part that I wanted to be able to affirm.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about before we just took it out of
Okay,
there.
I just going back and forth between different contractors on it.
Yeah, I don't think that would be the big, difference.
Mm.
We had rejected that part, so that green was not in our last proposal. I don't think that using and in 31, that makes sense. It should have been, I think 17 looks like it's the same, so. I think that we're, let's not, check. I think we're exactly on the same page in 17, 31 with and is fine, but it would be Article 12 where we would still be doing that. CQ.
Okay, and we can look at that too. So then we took a look at the ones that we talked about, a little bit of language. And so 13 was maintenance of classroom control and discipline. Let's see, trying to make sure I know where all the edit choices are. We were good with where you were with, excuse me, back to this. In A, we continue to struggle with calibration on implementation and what that means. And so we are offering and include time for school-wide review to ensure implementation of best practices. the word calibration just. It's got a lot of different connotations that we weren't real clear about, so, that was why we offered that. Annual review. Let's see, B,
Oh, there was one other minor change, and I think this was just an accidental switchback last time on your end, because we agreed procedures versus policies. It was procedures, it accidentally got reverted to policies. We put it back to procedures, just for clarity of language. We had a discussion, we all were like. Well, there, our procedure A,
yeah,
the second to the last sentence, just end.
okay, thank you. Let's see. Under B, the written student discipline procedure, so on and so forth, there was agreement within that. And the language that we were looking at was, let's see. Okay, I think, yeah, B looks good. C. The written student discipline procedure shall require, and wrap back communication to reporting teacher / homeroom teacher shall occur when one of their students is issued a referral by another staff member. Our counter is to say the written student discipline procedure shall require that incidents are documented into the student information system with follow-up communication to reporting staff member. Wrap back communication will be provided to appropriate licensed employees when allowable and appropriate, rather than designating one or two specific people. D, we left the same. E, again, we use the word, procedures. The student handbook will be posted on the district website. Any changes to behavior procedures will be communicated to staff prior to changes being shared with students and families. In F, we changed tactics to techniques. And there was 2 sentences in there that we went over back and forth. And so in that we had said, prior to student entry into the general education classroom, licensed employees will be given training and practice in the use of any physical intervention techniques that are identified in the behavior or discipline plan. When prior training is not possible, support will be provided until training can occur. So the hope was to just simplify what we were all trying to say. So, and then everything else in that article is the same as was put forward. So that's 13.
Before you go forward, because of that.
Yep.
I'm gonna dig in on your proposal on Article 13.
Okay.
I think you might be able to provide us with some, a concrete example about that last sentence about what the, like, walk through an example of the follow-up communication to the reporting staff member in the proposal, what that looks like, then what makes that then different from that next stage of wrap back communication, and when's, whatever, like in an example, like tell us like, this is what would happen, boom, boom, boom. And I know last time we were talking about like the example, like Matt Kelly makes a report, do I tell like, so if we could go back and hear some on what that difference is between the report and the wrap back, and then an example of what would be like allowable and appropriate, and then an example of one that would not be allowable
That would be
and
helpful.
appropriate.
Okay, and I'm gonna look to our administrators too, to be able to see if they've got situations in mind. The information you put forward last time said that it would be in the student information system, and that wrap back communication to reporting teacher / homeroom teacher shall occur when one of their students is issued a referral by another staff member. There could be other people in play in that process as well. And so the idea was, and it was saying, in any kind of a situation, we're gonna make sure that follow-up communication absolutely happens to the reporting staff member. Wrap back communication provided to, and maybe it's other or whatever, appropriate licensed employees when allowable and appropriate. So it could be that the homeroom teacher is gonna get that information, because they need to know. The example that somebody had given before, if you've got a bunch of middle schoolers farting in class, or making fart sounds in class, does everybody really need to know about that? Does the homeroom teacher really need to know, that that's something that's going on? Or if there's something that because of privacy concerns really is not about allowable or appropriate to be shared. The other thing would be in some of these situations, there may be a music teacher that needs to know because that's where students go next. There may need to be, like Shelley has said before, special ed case manager that needs to know. There may be the PE teacher that a student's gonna, I mean, so it could be more than the specifics of the reporting and homeroom only. Any other, I'm looking to, any other input?
It'd be so severe that all teachers would be put on.
That's true.
And I get that, it's just that the reason why we put it in there is because communication seems to be lacking in a lot of these areas. And so when it has the phrase of when allowable and when appropriate, now it has a little clause in there of, now we don't have to, we determined it's not allowable and appropriate. Where we understand that there's a certain privacy, I mean, that's our rule, we get it, that we're not allowed to hear a lot of information about our students, and we're okay with that, that's the world we navigate with. But we are also like the ones on the front lines of needing that information, and the reason why we put that information in there is that communication is not happening. And so now with that language in there, it seems like now it's even more of a reason to have it not happen. And so now it gives.
That's the way I read it too.
So that's what I'm concerned about, is that all of the situations you're talking about, we are totally on board with that. We are, like everything you said, yeah, if there's some minor behavior happening in another classroom, I sure as heck don't even know about it from a student that I have in a homeroom. We're concerned about the ones that are more on the higher scale that then we don't hear about. And so by having that statement in there, now you just guarantee that you don't have to tell us. That's my concern with it.
I also think that if it's important enough to go into CIS, it's probably important for us to know about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of times that we just have those side conversations in the hallway and deal with the student, and it never even gets to that level up
Yeah.
in CIS.
We'll hear from our colleagues before we hear from admin.
And some of what we need, I mean, that's some of what we've been listening for too, is to be able to say, how do we line things up? The other part of this is kind of at what point do we start? And I'm saying this both sides, where, and you've given, I'll use special ed as the example last week. We're gonna drop some things out of that special ed consideration because we're gonna take a shot at trusting. That things are gonna shift. And so the reason for this particular language was in this, we always have to tell reporting teacher and homeroom teacher. We want to make sure that there can be other people in the game. And we also want to be able to make sure that we do a better job of being able to communicate with people. It's not about being able to shut out by any stretch of the imagination. We found that too, that there are sometimes you know, in working with some of the safety folks around the region who are saying, especially in terms of parents, parents want to know every last detail. And there are sometimes that it's not theirs to know in terms of certain situations.
If you just read it without those last 4 words, wrap back communication will be provided to appropriate licensed employees.
That's fine.
I trust you.
That's fine.
Take out the last 4 words.
I don't have a problem with that if my team doesn't have a problem with that.
As long as it's understood that there will be times that privacy law doesn't allow it, and we're all in agreement with that. I come from a HIPAA background, this kind of stuff terrifies me.
And me as well, because now you could grieve me if I don't tell you something that's private around that city, based on that.
Not if it, we know.
I mean, not if they're.
Because that's what it's
Fall
saying, you
under-
have to provide rep back communication.
Read for you to disclose private information about a student, but that's just not.
And if it's protected by HIPAA and FERPA, you wouldn't have a right to grieve that.
Your management rights are still
And
intact.
communication can be conducted without disclosing privileged information. Coming back and letting us know that a situation was being taken care of, we are handling it, this is, the steps that we're taking. You don't have to disclose private information, that kind of conversation, excuse me. But this idea of this, we're trying to build trust. We are also working under years of being left out of the loop and feeling like we are the enemy. And so that's why we're like, we feel this need of like, we want to be a partner. I don't know how many times I have to say that. And every time I see something, I'm like, nope, you don't need to be a partner with us. Nope, we'll tell you when we want to partner with you. It's like, it becomes very frustrating.
What? I don't know if it's appropriate to, I'll hold my
I
question.
think that language of enemy may be stronger than I would word that.
Sure.
But because I do feel like my admin has been supportive multiple times, when appropriate, so I don't think that's just a step. Not that it's political.
If I can help just jump back a little bit, I just wanna make sure that, so we're using. And, and I think I agree, Aaron, if you talk about going back and utilizing procedures again to keep language consistent. So in this proposal, you have follow-up and wrap back. Are those the same things? When
Yeah,
we used wrap back, now you come back with follow-up and then using wrap back again, and I'm just wanna make sure that I'm understanding whether or not those are two different things.
Okay, and we tried, where is the follow-up?
it's literally
The first sentence.
Oh.
prior to wrap up.
That was your guys'
Yes.
Yeah.
language, and I, honestly, I like follow-up, if that just seems clear, like the wrap back's like a. seems
New
like
thing.
fine, Whatever,
Yeah.
so I mean, honestly, if it says follow-up communication to require staff member, communication will be provided to appropriate license supports.
Agreed.
I wouldn't
Staff
do it.
member and appropriate licensed employees when allowable.
Appropriate.
So the reason I'm stuck on when allowable, my background is healthcare, my background is HIPAA. Our rule is the least amount of information necessary to do your job as protection because HIPAA lawsuits are rampant, as I'm sure you're all aware. So I'm very cautious, like up to my nostrils about privacy. So that's why when allowable feels really safe to me. I don't want it to feel offensive. Cause that's not the intention. It really isn't. So that's where we might need to just.
Sounds like we've got more dialogue on
Dance
both
just a little
sides.
bit.
Yeah, I think that's something that we can work around here. What's concerning me a little bit here is a little bit of the change here that's going on, like some ways your language is a little bit more expansive, but it's not guaranteeing that it goes back to our proposal. We spent time talking about concerns about reporting to a homeroom and teacher and a homeroom teacher and how that might occur. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about too much information, which is legitimate to bring up and I believe for us to talk through. But our proposal specifically said that wrap back, which follow up is the same thing, it's just a more formalized term. I don't think that's a problem. But to the reporting teacher and the homeroom teacher, when one of their students is issued a referral by another staff member. So our proposal was coming from this, like, we like the idea of assuring that the key teacher is informed. But I think for the most part, it was, that's happening. But it's not when they make the report, which is what your proposal is saying in here, that the follow-up communication to the reporting staff member. That's great and important and should be occurring, but our concern was somebody else reports my student who I'm primary on, they're on my 5th grade roll and the music teacher reports them. If the music teacher gets wrapped back with, great, they follow the report, they should be, but shouldn't I find out about that as well? And so that's where I think the proposal back here is missing one of those key interests from ours, and that was wanting to know about it when the referral comes from somebody else. But it's also specifically to mentioning a referral, which I don't know this is my lack of knowledge, I don't know that every time an incident is documented in the SIS, is that a referral?
It doesn't
Technically-
always. It doesn't.
So
always.
your language is requiring more communication back. Technically, I would say, and our proposal is asking for. But it's also not digging into that key issue of, we want to know about it. If somebody else has to file a referral, please make sure. You know, and if it's, within whatever is appropriate allowable, but it's like, it's the surprise factor that somebody finds out from their colleague the next day that another teacher or another instructional assistant filed a referral about their kid and they didn't know about it. Like that kid came back to their class they came back to their homeroom, that's where homeroom came in. I think if that's, too much, like, we're not trying to say exclusively those would be the people, but like, it is important to know that interest is making sure that way we consider that primary or homeroom or phase of classroom teacher is aware of somebody else who uses that system with a referral, not just uses the system. It has to do specifically if there was a referral there. I mean, we're never gonna stop, like, all the communication is great, but like, this is mandating an RN very specific.
And let's just say in that situation, I'm the homeroom teacher, it happened in Mr. Kelly's class. And Mark could easily come say, hey, so-and-so had an issue in Kelly's last day. He's being disciplined for it, or they're being disciplined for it, or taking care of it. I'm at least aware that there's second buyer. He doesn't have to tell me what the incident was, he doesn't have to share that information with me, that's private. I would trust him to use that discretion, because he knows what can be shared and what can't be. But I'm then pulled into that loop, and I now have that student, which I'm with that student for 4 years. I need to know what's going on with that student, because that's my role of like trying to guide them through those 4 years. That's all we're asking, is that, oh, got it. So if that kid asks for privileges today, or if that kid is needing, like, hey, then I know, no, we're gonna be pausing today, we're gonna be focusing on some other stuff. I don't even know the specifics about it at all. But he communicates to me that this is what happened today, they're on it, great, perfect, done.
Prevent a lot of future escalation too.
So one of my questions is then, if the office is providing discipline, and then the homeroom teacher is also making a choice to be able to provide discipline.
I'm not doing discipline. I'm
Well, but
just
you
like-
said something about taking
Supporting.
privileges away and.
It's those students like, okay, we have a certain student that if they're doing well, they get to go do some activities in another classroom. It's a carrot we dangle. Today, that carrot's not being offered. We're just business as usual today. That sort of thing. It's not a discipline, but they don't get an added bonus that day. I'm just saying this is a very small
Yeah.
situation of that example. Because that student likes to be, they're a mover. They have a hard time sitting, so we have to provide accommodate for those situations. To have them just sit for that whole period can be tough. So some days that specific student likes to get up and move. But that's my goal of like, oh, okay, I know that they're having an off day today. That helps me be able to manage that student better. I don't even know the specifics about what's going on with that student. I trust admin knows, that's all I need to know. But
To the staff.
Okay.
Don't mind me reading it.
Nope, go for it.
Nobody's gonna have it in front of them except me, and can I read my own handwriting? Let's see. Starting off with student information system. And that back communication to reporting teacher, homeroom teacher, and other appropriate licensed employees shall occur when allowable. Does that work? And shall's a strong one. Shall occur when allowable. It's reverting mostly back to your language, adding in other appropriate licensed employees, because there will be times that other licensed employees may do that. And this is me just spitballing, I'm not speaking with authority of this group over here, but, and then you're gonna look for the sake of it, should be a little.
Right, and yeah, I think that if we can, if we can keep things moving and then maybe caucus with, because it sounds like we've got a couple of different ideas. on
Okay.
it, Then that allows us to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I would just I think the interest convergence of like, because we're a dynamic system of like, you know, Crystal could have a student that goes to walk to and Grace's class, and if there's a situation where I kind of see it together when a student needs to be removed or something, kind of, I think of where is this kid going next and who needs to know, and those kinds of situations to prevent. So it's just kind of like, I think we're trying to not get boxed into like, okay, I gotta go down this checklist of contractual who I know versus making sure that student gets supported and we don't like, you know,
Support the kids.
right, so,
Yep.
and that's we're trying to get the language to match what we all want is for the,
Yep.
for the, for,
Crystal's not counting heads.
and that's where that's my only thing around, like, I think that's where you know, the appropriate staff, because where that kid's going, or who's that, you know, homeroom or whatnot, you know, specialist, that's like maybe better language than trying to go, okay, did I hit the sped teacher, or did I hit this, or did I hit this? It's just, yeah. And it's, yeah.
I have one quick question for clarity for myself. Once an incident is documented into the student information system, who then has access to that?
It varies from building to building. That's,
In the student information system, my understanding is the teacher, is it the teacher who,
The teacher who wrote the referral has access to the back end, see.
in your building, in your building.
And so. it's
because
just
teachers
the
are completing
recording
referrals.
teacher.
that are- Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because of how.
I also, because you don't complete the report. I was wondering about that.
They
That just,
completed it in
that just
Google
answered a
Docs.
big question.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah,
lot
that's
of,
what
We just.
So we have, we have a paper version, but the reason that, you know, Google.
that's why the communication is so important.
Because Google auto sends to the homeroom teacher.
And we're also checking with LPL to see if we can include a homeroom teacher that was at the high school.
Okay.
And the reason I went with Google before SIS is because if you look at the SIS document, it's pretty yucky. And so that's the, yeah.
So,
And the Google's been working well. I mean, I like the Google form. It's just the follow-up.
Yeah.
Side of it.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
If there was a place that we could even add another bullet, like now we know it's in the queue. And now so-and-so's dealing with it, check, if we just see the green button,
Yeah.
yes, so-and-so's on it. You
Yeah.
know, I mean,
Or even just,
It's
parents
just
are
one-
contacted.
more stat.
Well,
Their box.
I could jump in, though. I just want to make sure that we're clear on something here. So this is in paragraph A, we're in agreement on this, that the finalized procedures are determined by the administration.
Okay.
So this idea that what we're writing in here are, it's kind of like things that when we talk about the new teacher orientation, or when we talk about sometimes about evaluation. The board or the administration may ultimately have a say on the finalized policy. Or when we see it's like procedure here, that procedure could say that we will attempt to communicate with people allowable under the law or within FERPA or whatever. You finalize that part. What we're putting in our proposal is, whatever you finalize, it has to include these couple of specifics. So it would be like, if you wanted to add to it and say, we'll attempt to talk to more people, we'll try to do that, that's what we will do. But like, if you were to have accepted our proposal in the past, what it would say is that whatever you do with that finalized procedure, you get to do that, except you have to make sure that in it, if there's a referral in that, that you're referencing, that it's gonna have incidents getting documented into the SIS system. Now, Google's a better set, I mean, we're coming from it, we just want stuff to be documented. So the finalized procedure will require documentation in a commonly or acceptable place. And that there would be that follow-up or wrap-up back communication to the person. Or minimally would be that. If your finalized procedure says, we want to talk to more people, or ideally everybody down the line, within the constraints of our workload and what we can do or the law. That's fine, you have that right in there, it just would have to say, when we look at that procedure, does it say, I will follow up with that referring, or the student of the referral on there, on ours is homeroom or that base teacher, that's it, so it's not trying. I guess I'm a little worried that there might be this perception that this overall proposal is requiring a lot more than it actually does, because you can add all kinds of additional things within it. It's just saying, you know, we want it to be reviewed on the, each year, you know, we're talking about different things, calibration of those things, but we want an annual review of it, like, I think we can work through that. And then we want these minimal requirements that have to be there all the time. Because there's gonna be a lot more in there potentially.
Yeah, and I just need
We
to make
just
sure
want
that
to
our
be
team
able-
is on the same page before I spout off something.
And I'm making a note after that to make sure that as we go through our policies this year, that we're referring back to CBA when we do that, which I think you already do, but always good to have another.
No, it's always good to have another set of eyes on it.
Semi-functional
Always.
set of eyes.
Always, always. All right. 20, like I said, is, as straightforward as it was. We took out we said new staff orientation shall, and we took out minimally, shall include information on the following. And so this really stays very close to what you had. The thing that I referenced a little bit last time is everything is digital. And so the notion of being able to say, we're gonna give a policy handbook or a collective bargaining agreement book to every new staff member, and give the copy of a printed copy of the CBA to all, what was it? School leads. That we are looking more to being able to say, policies are available on the website and they can be printed, and the collective bargaining agreement comes actually as a part of the new hire checklist, to where people will get that. And it's also online where it can be printed. We're just trying to get out of the business of printing booklets. That's all. It has absolutely nothing to do with trying to hide information or keep it away. It's really just about an ease of not having to make a bunch of books. And then Article 28, vacancies and transfers. There was question about B and the interview committees for vacancies. And so the conversation we had last time was changing the title of that to hiring committees. And so we said hiring instead of interview committees shall be formed for the purpose of filling licensed vacancies as part of the hiring process. All licensed staff at the related grade or subject level of the vacancy shall be invited but not required to participate as a member of the hiring committee. Committees shall be trained and shall provide a recommendation for hire to school and district administration. Final decisions rest with administration. So really the biggest change from what we had talked about was making that encompass a hiring committee as opposed to an interview committee. So that part of that process could be screening applications and other things related to a hiring process. Everything else was the same. And 32, we still sit with a management right. Preferences to do away with this. I have a willingness to put in the technology needs statement that when the district is considering a new technology that impacts all staff, so on and so forth, the association will be provided with opportunity to provide input on considerations. I'll tell you today, one of the things that we discovered is with our technology, we get something called E-rate, which gives us return funding on some of our technology investments. The find out today was that's $80,000 less than we anticipated it would be. Which means that what that does is, and it's not money that we spend out of the general fund, it's money that is spent from a federal pocket on our behalf. So what that means is what we're looking at right now is what we had hoped to accomplish in a year. We're now going to have to expand it out because we simply don't have the resource to be able to do all the pieces of that. And so when we start to talk about the next step and the funding pieces, when we've got a finite set of or finite amount of money, and we want to make sure we can put, I mean, you may say, then great, find 80 grand that we can put into technology. Because that's what's important to us. And we're gonna have to pull it from somewhere, because we can't do cost of living and insurance and technology. There's just only a certain amount of money. And so really, that's where we went with, as we get into the proposals for 19, is it 19?
Yeah.
Yeah, compensation, that, it's kind of like, we want to give you some thought and comment about what is most important. One of the things last year, yeah, last time we got together that you talked about was COLA was the most important thing, that there is. And so what we've done and what I'll share with you is put down the information of where we're currently with salary percentages from both sides, about what people wanted. I'll tell you that we looked at a couple of possibilities that put us over budget. And if I approve an allocation for something that's over budget, I get my hand slapped real bad. And the other part of it is if there's that level of importance, there's gonna be less people. I mean, there's not money to be able to do everything. So, what I'll share with you, Steve, can you work those around? I don't know if there's enough there or not. Yes. So we started out with where we left off, the last time we got together, where you came to say, we want a 5%, a 2.5% experience stipend, $1,300 in insurance the first year, $1,400 the next year, 80,000 in the insurance pool, $350 a month for the opt-out, 25K, which would take care of our people in dual degree, and 26,000 in national board certification. That keeps us pretty well, or, you know, and then we had said 3.5, 4, a 2% experience stipend, the 13, 14, 80K, 350. We hadn't put in on the dual degree or agreed to that, and we put the national board. That gives us a good break-even point in terms of sticking within our budget. So what we did was we put an option out there, and you'll see off to the side, the percentage of staff impacted. So when you see COLA, there's 100% of the licensed staff that are impacted by raising COLA. And so we said, okay, what we'll put out there is a 4.5 in a first year, a 4% in a second year. What that does is that had for us, it dropped the experience stipend back to 1.5%. That impacts 46% of the staff. We kept the $1,300, $1,400 insurance cap, knowing that insurance costs are going up, and that impacts 36%. The insurance pool, we dropped from 80K to 50K. That was our recommendation, as it's a 36% of staff impacted, with 9% of the staff using the majority of those funds. The opt-out is $350 a month, which is 22% of the staff impacted. Dual degree is 4%. National board is up to 10%. And so,
But current can't zero.
No, we got.
it would be, if we put that in there, that's who it would impact. So what we wanted to do was to put something out there and be able to say, well, we've kind of, you know, pondered and pulled and picked and so we wanted to be able to put something forward to be able to say, if experience stipend is more important, what shifts within this? If the insurance pool is more important, what shifts within this? Or if you're coming back and saying there's nothing that can shift within it, then that's going to put us in a place where it's going to be pretty darn difficult. But we are looking to you too, to be able to say what really matters in what we want. And let's see if we can collectively and creatively put it together to be able to provide us with something that works. And so it was a way of being able to say, this isn't our our only offer, if you will, of consideration. It's really about if 5.5 is the most important to us, what kinds of questions can we ask and where might we be able to shuffle? If increasing the insurance cap is important, which we kind of looked at that, increasing the insurance cap. That one's not gonna make as huge a difference, just in terms of the monthly premiums of the majority of people. So, that's kind of why we left it in where that was. But we're kind of at a place of, we want to be able to do right by people. We also know that, 25, 26, we're kind of clearer looking at budget. We have to see enrollment, because if enrollment jumps, then, that could give us some boost. We also know that we put a hold on, 7 classes at Philomath High School this year, 3 healthy relationships classes, because it's gonna move from a junior class to a senior class, and 4 college and career readiness classes that are all required, either by a credit requirement or a state requirement. So we're gonna have to put 7 class periods back at the high school next year. Which we've just taken we took a year's review for free, and we've got 4 that are gonna come back to us next year. And we are not real sure on how things are gonna play out in next year's budget. And so it's really about being able to say, we have a hard time coming back and saying, here's an offer, or here's our final offer. It's like, please help us think. Within, what we know we can do from a budget perspective. So that's why we put it out this way, as opposed to being able to fill in the whole of, the 18 and 19, in that format, because we figured we needed to talk about it first, to be able to kind of see where it lands. Yeah, I think so. Do we want to go to the conference room? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
As she was. Yeah, it's actually small enough, but actually big enough.
Excellent.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Like I said, I'm holding my hand. Oh, yeah, where did your phone? I had to close it out and then my computer is plugged in.
Oh.
So.
Yeah.
And we got a couple too, of just a quick article things. But
So to come back to the review ones, the TA review ones that was on the agenda, article number 12. We'd be willing to TA that if it went back there, we can limit stuff without that.
without the green, and that's one of the things that we talked about. We said we can do away with that.
Okay, awesome.
And I think I have a clean copy of that one too.
Okay, and then we are ready to TA 17 and 31. We were second word minor changes of some language in that, and so both of those are good.
Okay, and that's, we went through those two.
Um, you want to take care of those really quick, or do you want to talk about?
I'll find the clean copies here and then we can do them. We also looked at 13 and the others.
Okay,
If you wanna
yeah, let's go ahead and do
go through
those,
those.
and that way we can kind of talk about compensation.
On 13, we took a look at C. And, it brings up more questions than it does answers. So we put the written student discipline procedure shall require that incidents are documented into the student information system with follow-up communication to reporting staff member and homeroom teacher when allowed. Period. Follow-up communication, or we could add to that, there could be others, but at minimum, we would make sure that we do those. The couple of things that we had talked about that just as a system, we need to take a look at more and more is, we've got a lot of people that know a lot of information about a lot of kids and a lot of families. That shares from staff to staff and school to school. That probably aren't healthy for us, that we just need to be thoughtful about. Kind of as we move forward, because we've got a couple of families, I believe, that everybody in the district knows about. And, is that appropriate? Probably not, to be able to have as much dialogue across school. And I am guilty of that myself. And it's just being able to watch that level of communication. The other piece of that is making sure that, we don't have consequences to a student that really doesn't need more, well, not consequence, but kind of restrictions or holds. That may or may not be appropriate. And so, it's really just kind of thinking about how we do business, but we said, yeah, we can live with homeroom teacher in that. Right, so, and then, 20, we had, again, our thing was about, the electronic access. The vacancies and transfers. We felt like that was pretty straightforward with the hiring committees for us, and so that kind of really it was those two for us. The two big things were the added piece in Article 12 and the piece in 13 about homeroom. So,
Okay, well, the team will probably still need to talk about those.
Okay.
In a separate session.
Okay.
Just to look at those, and we're ready to.
Okay.
Sign off anything.
Perfect.
So as far as compensation, we can go ahead and talk about that now. We have been very, clear from day one that this has been a priority for us. We've talked about how insurance, just in this last couple of weeks, our members are, their jaws are hitting the floor for what they're gonna have to pay for insurance. So, we still feel very strongly and, providing some relief to our members, that's who we're speaking for today. It's not us, it's for all of them. And so, I believe you have the paper in front of you, but we're going with a COLA for 4.5, for the first year and 4.5 for the second year. Our experience stipend, we want to remain at 2.5. Our experienced teacher, who are foundationally in this community and our school system, they have been hit time and time and time again. And so they also need to be put into the equation. They have been put on the back burner many times and have been gracious about it, but they need to be considered in this proposal. Our insurance cap of $1,300 for the first year, $1,400 remains the same. Our pool, like I said, insurance, these young families are going to get hit. They are getting hit. Not only with their housing and with their, you know, just yearly salaries, but now they need some relief in that area for insurance, and that's just not we really want to take care of them with that 80,000 pool, with the opt-out being $350, and nowhere in was it discussed about dual degree, and we strongly feel it. We know it's not a lot of members, but they're members that have been in this school system for a long time and have been every year shortchanged for the education that they've had. And so we'd like them to be considered there as well. So that's why we have the 25,000 there. We have already given up language on Article 12 with the SPED. We did that last meeting, and that was a really tough one for us to let go of. And then we've already, we agreed that we'll give up Article 32 with the facilities. And we know technology, even though that impacts us daily in our workflow and what we're doing, that we're willing to put that article aside. And we're also willing to give up on the national board on that, the 26,000 for the national board. So with our proposal, we're actually moving towards you for 150,000. And so we'd like you guys to take that into consideration, that we've heard what you're saying about like help us out and where it can be shift and flow. I know I stated last meeting that, and I feel like it's around the district with our members that there's been no addressing the fact that you are admin heavy and that it impacts our paycheck. In fact,
How are we admin heavy? I want to ask the question
because
about
we
data.
have more admin now than we had in last 5 years ago or 10 years ago, like that, there's more. We have, I mean, that's the numbers.
We had 10 and now we have 11.
Well, we had one staying at home too.
Yeah, we had 12, but we're at 11 now. So
Again,
we've gained one.
Well, there's areas that it's never even discussed about admin, where we feel like we're taking a hit financially. And so it's a concern of ours. So that's our proposal. We do appreciate the fact that you brought this information to us. It does help us to see where the district is at. And it does, and we do value, we know the information is sound. And so we do trust that what you're providing us is accurate and everything, which is great. And that does help us to look at our numbers and everything. And so we appreciate that. And so that's where we're at today.
Okay.
Do you guys have any questions about it?
I'll let anybody else ask the questions before I.
What was your calculation of what you're giving monetarily? What did you say, 150,000?
The percentage of COLA.
Yeah, so that we were doing, you know, with some roll-up costs in there, but I think that roughly every one of those percents. So we were calculating that when you moved from 3.5% to 4.5%, that was gonna be roughly about 100,000, but in your option, then you took 20,000 away for the experience and 30,000 away from the insurance cap. So that was an option that moved 50,000 roughly based on what we were looking at there. And so if we move from go down, we go from 5 to 4.5, 5 to 4.5, it's over 2 different years, so it's a little different in the end, but that's another 100,000 roughly there if you're looking at 11%, and then if we walk back the national board certification, if that was a concern about that being 26, then that would be 126. I mean, I think that, we like that idea of the national board certification. We TA'd that, but if that's gonna be a cost concern related to budget flexibility or be able to move money around, then we would take that up. We'd backtrack that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go back and make sure that we can do some calculation with it. I'll tell you, in just looking at it, without having calculated what the 4.5 for, and the differences there, I just need to take a look at it in a different kind of a way. Yeah, because I have no idea what it's gonna be, and we want to do right by, but we also can't go over budget. Have to be thoughtful in that way as well. So we'll just go calculate and keep talking about where we are.
My big concern from a budgeting standpoint, and I can only speak for myself, I'm not speaking as a board, it's very clear. So the only buckets we can pull money from to help with this are technology and facility. And I hear what you're saying about technology. And we know we have things that are gonna happen. So we have people. Us coming together to try and problem solve this. I'm very emotional today. I'm trying to hold it in. We really do care about you guys as a board, all of us.
Absolutely.
That will be the one time I feel comfortable speaking for the board, is that we really care. And I'm not trying to like do an emotional feel right now. I'm just having a bad day. So we really are trying to solve this creatively because we care very deeply about all of you. And that's why we brought these numbers, so you can see what benefits the whole versus what benefits really small portions, because that was the only way my brain could come up with the best solution for everyone, was to just straight up say, we need you to know COLA is for all of you. And some of these other things disproportionately benefit very small groups of people. And that's your decision to make.
It's tough
obviously, like,
because
how-
there are numbers, and even though my impact is small, there are people. And
Oh, I
they-
know.
They're right in there with us day to day.
Absolutely.
And the good work that they have contributed to this district, so.
I know.
Nice, I appreciate it.
We actually, the team did appreciate the percentages that you put on. That was very helpful, having some fruitful conversations.
Yeah, I think the team appreciates your candor. Thank you for that. One thing that I'll just add back to that, like, yeah, that's important to take into consideration. The team weighs all that. Like a thing like the 9% who currently use the insurance pool majority, like those folks desperately need that.
Yeah.
I mean, that means that they have family and no other insurance options. They can't opt out. And like they need as much as that as they can to avoid really exorbitant. And it's likely in a number of those cases that they're actually paying a lot of money for the worst level of insurance that's available under OA already. So like, that's what's hard about taking that money out of that pool for those people, because yeah, it may be a smaller percentage, but like some people have options and those folks probably don't. I mean, not gonna be we don't know everybody's individual circumstances if you go on that, but I think when you analyze what that is, that means I don't think there's not an insurance with spouse or somebody else to fall back on. And they have to get full family insurance at the highest deductible point, which is happening outside of our world here. It happened with in the community, and it's not just saying it's not something that everybody deals with, but it just makes it so much more like that's harder when you have somebody saying, yeah, well, I'm gonna be paying thousands of dollars out of pocket, like, please remember me, you know?
Yeah, I didn't really fully understand until I came to this district, the difference between composite versus tiered and
Yes.
some of the realities for people and that, and it's been, yeah. Certainly even attracting and retaining people who we might want to take the reason that we don't want it to be a barrier in terms of being able to come and work in Fulham, that they have to carry insurance for both.
Or for the 46% of us who were maybe topped out, we spent 10, 15 years in that category. And now, at the end of our careers, are not there, but still want to support those that are.
Right.
You know, underneath that.
Can I ask another clarifying question? And I don't know if you guys can tell me this. I'm just curious, how much of insurance rates gone up, do we know?
So the OEB rates are, the way that the state pool works is that they're required to keep them within a limited range of increase. So the actual premiums have to average out to like 3+% on an annual basis.
Okay.
But like MODA came forward and was like, it's just this a narrative form to it, not exactly specific, but it essentially was like, yeah, if we were to actually keep these plans the same and give you the renewal rates, we would have to have a percentage that far exceeds that.
Yeah.
So the only way that we can offer you your 3% increase is by substantially reducing the overall quality of some of the plans.
Gotcha.
And so it's when the rates are, and people see those, but it's like somebody that's like the co-insurance, the
Yeah.
amount of money that they pay to use it. And so if they're like, I've got a kid who's got chronic asthma, and I know how much we have to pay for these visits all the time, like all of a sudden, that's what's gone up. So the on paper rates have gone up, you know, within that average as the law requires. But it's the quality of those plans. Now, if somebody is not regular, if somebody's just using it because they're generally healthy and it's an emergency, like they're paying potentially more, but they're not seeing, but it's the people that are seeing like, oh, like have chronic conditions or family members with what they know that new cost is gonna be, that's really frightening, because it's like,
Right.
what do I'm not gonna have my kid get his asthma treatment or whatever.
Right.
like that.
Okay, thank you.
Jennifer, do you have the new charts for those numbers?
Or the
Or
rates
Yeah.
or the plan, like the copay. and all
Yeah. You have those,
Yeah, just
so you might be able to better answer your direct
Yeah,
question
I'm
if
just
you want
curious.
dollars.
Yeah,
Because it's significant,
yeah, I'm sure,
a lot.
I'm sure. As it is.
Have a lot of lots of that.
Yeah.
Going up there.
Yeah,
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
it's gonna put everything on.
I can make a summary for you.
That would be
Thank
great.
you. I'd be interested in that.
You too. You'll know next week what we'll have to sign up for.
Yeah, Cynthia, the date's today.
MODA is gonna be one of our round robin sessions at the Tuesday morning in service time, and they'll be there for the whole time. To be able to provide information and answer questions and things like that. So we've got 4 35-minute blocks of rotation. We heard that last year, the round robin idea felt better than sitting for 2 hours, and so we set that up again, and Megan was able to arrange MODA to be able to be there to explain the big changes. So we've devoted one of the sessions completely to people being able to ask those questions and get that information.
I think it's gonna need about 125 shares.
And some tissues.
Yeah, got them here. I've got 12 and 17 and 31.
And I didn't know that that's been, I didn't tell me that. But that way, we'll just call it that. That's right. Well, that's what's.
Start some, start on the seventh or.
Yeah, only brought one of them over because I wasn't sure where they were gonna be, and then I'll make copies.
My boss could do it.
Well,
Explain to me what I keep saying.
Okay, I just put it into languages of AI. OBD insurance rates in Oregon are increasing. Can you explain these increases to me like I'm a 5-year-old?
Yeah.
Like they explain OBD insurance rate increases like you're 5 years old. I know how sometimes you buy because your favorite toy goes up at the store. Well, that's kind of what's happening with health insurance.
Yeah, but I need a little bit more than that.
Well, it goes
I
on.
felt back. Yeah.
Which was yesterday. The training is just first day. As a 14-year-old sure. Is that the?
Right.
Literally of side 8 to 12.
Usually have a couple of reasons that and meetings, but.
Yeah.
And with the deduction that's like there.
Yes, you're gonna pay a lot. But I. Our.
To 12.
It's just. But then the our deduction gets. Like our stuff is like 60 days. Our.
Yes.
Mine is gonna. Thyroid eye. But at the same time, we can't decrease the quality of insurance.
You're already on.
And I got.
There was still time to act.
And then we took out
They're very pretty rocks. We have every, for the last 3 years, we've been like, we want to go rock or shoot vacation. No, it kind of depends, and then just don't get it. And then by the time I get off, you're gonna have yeah. Hey, this is the insurance you already have, you're in a plan, and I want to take it in the. For next year.
Yeah.
So much.
I said, or just air.
That's a title that takes serious.
Yes, very much. Like I.
We'll ask. Yeah.
You know, allow.
Like I found a really show in our yard.
We have. Looks like my Marshall, you were just breaking out. We had proposed last time to put policy handbook and CBA at the same section, you're breaking them out. I don't.
We just did that as it was before.
Yeah, so we just have to, spend up a few minutes to check in and talk.
Okay, and that's fine. I just didn't
There
want
aren't
to
any,
lose
there
it.
aren't any immediate objections from that, and I don't think that there were, there was nothing really striking about the hiring committee, so I think that that's close, we just have to check in. as
That's fine.
a team.
That's fine.
Just, we were running out of time and we'd be.
Yeah, no, I get that. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't leaving something.
Yeah. Again.
Yeah, our next one,
First.
21st. We were 4 o'clock. And I want to say the high school, the thing that I've been working with Michelle on is making sure that we get the library, because the community conference room just isn't, it doesn't lend itself to being able to have people hang and be a part of the process. And so, I will make sure that it's the library, and the only reason that it would change is if the library is not available. Mark, can you check on them? Thank you, I appreciate that.
One of five.
What was that?
So 1 of 5, One of 5 school board members. Thanks, Sandy. Are you doing all?
Thank you for
all of them?
Yes.
And I spent Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Salem at a school board conference, so you guys, I'm all school board.
Thank you for your service.
You are all. I'm a widow baby.
Are you guys done?
Yep. Thank you.
Hopefully they have air conditioning.
Oh my gosh, we were freezing so bad.